got Julia.
Oh,
Okay, testing.
no, it's not working.
Testing, can you guys hear me?
There you go.
Yep.
Test.
Okay.
Julia, can you hear me?
Julia, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
All right, we all ready?
You have an owlish look today.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. All right, at this moment, can you guys hear me? Okay, at this moment, I call to order the meeting of the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School Committee, and I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on HW Cam on YouTube. And also to let everyone know that we do have a member of the committee who is remote this evening. Julia Campbell is on the screen on Zoom. That means that our votes will need to be a roll call vote. We'll start off with an opportunity for citizens' comments. This is just to remind you, this is an opportunity for citizens to come before the committee and to offer your thoughts. It's an opportunity for you to be heard. It's an opportunity for the committee to listen. We really genuinely appreciate people that are willing to write to us on email, people that are willing to come, people that are willing to share their opinions, and we value that. I ask that any citizen who wishes to speak would, if you're in the room, would approach the podium, and when you do so, when it's your turn, I ask that you provide your name and your spell your name so that we can get it correct in the minutes. And I ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. And I will ask for someone on the committee to be a timer.
I get it.
All right, David Polito will be our timer, and he'll just let you know when you've got about 30 seconds left so you can start wrapping up. All right, so if there are any citizens in the room that would like to make a citizen's comment, please go ahead and approach the podium. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Jeff Austin from Hamilton, speaking as resident. Good evening, members of the school committee, superintendent, and members of the public. The approach taken by the superintendent, school committee, and school building committee in managing the elementary school project has unfortunately done a disservice to our community. From the beginning, there has not been a sufficient effort made to involve and engage the public in a meaningful way, especially given the significant size, long-term impact, and financial implications of this project. The site options presented to the public appear to offer choice, but in reality, the statement of interest submitted to the MSBA had already defined the scope as consolidation, leaving renovation off the table from the start. The education plan developed by the district further reinforced this limited path by focusing only on consolidation attributes, without thoughtfully considering renovation alternatives. It was only after the consolidation analysis was complete that 2 separate community polls were conducted, both clearly indicating the residents preferred renovations, the existing neighborhood schools, over consolidation. Despite this clear feedback, the committees proceeded to submit a consolidation plan to the state, one the community had already signaled they would not support. Continuing to allocate funds toward advancing and promoting a project that lacks public backing raises serious concerns about responsible use of taxpayer money. The choice to invest in marketing materials designed to persuade the public that there is only one viable option, framing the decision as now or never, is troubling. It has been suggested that renovation is not an option supported by the MSBA, but in fact, it is the education plan submitted that limited the project to consolidation. Claims that renovation would cost the same as new construction are also premature, given that a thorough, unbiased renovation analysis has not been pursued. Additionally, using construction inflation figures selected to cast doubt on renovation feasibility is misleading, as those same inflation factors apply equally to new construction. Finally, portraying the MSBA process as one that could take nearly a decade to revisit oversimplifies the reality. Other communities have demonstrated that revised plans, particularly those that reflect community input, can gain approval in well under 2 years. The manner in which this project has been managed has also resulted in unnecessary division within our community, something that could have been avoided with more transparent, inclusive, and open-minded process. Thank you.
Thank you. Are other comments in the room? Please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Andrews. I'm a Hamilton resident. I am here speaking tonight on behalf of Building Bright Futures in Hamilton-Wenham. I'm the chair of that committee. We're a political action committee, and we're focused on passing the resolution for the new elementary school. I'm here tonight to thank the superintendent and the school committee for the open and transparent process that brought us to this point. Your hard work put the students of this community, or these two communities, in the forefront, and you took into consideration the thoughts of our teachers as well. So I'd like to thank you for that process, and I hope that together we can build bright futures for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Horgan, 141 School Street in Hamilton. I just want to echo what this young woman said before me, just to thank the administration and the school committee for putting our communities in the position we are in right now, and that is moving our education forward for what is best for our students. As a resident of Hamilton for 31 years and a parent of 4 graduates of the district, we know that public education is the foundation of our society. And having been a former member of school committee, as David Polito often says, you don't know what it takes to make sausage until you're in the sausage factory. And I do appreciate the hard work that was done behind the scenes. I do feel that it has been transparent. Change is hard, and it will be difficult, but the end result will be what is needed in this community. So again, I appreciate all your hard work and effort, and keep the pedal to the metal, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tracy, do we have anyone on Zoom who'd like to offer a public comment?
We have several people. I'm just trying to message some of them to see if they're here to speak.
While we're waiting to see who we have on Zoom, is there anyone else in the room here that wants to offer a public comment? Okay. Oh, hi. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Okay. Mr. Tracy, I think, why don't we do one more here in the room, and then we'll go to
Yep.
Zoom? Okay?
Yep.
Go ahead.
I don't mind waiting for Zoom if you want. Okay.
I'm all good.
No, we're okay.
Cindy Fisher, Greenbrook Road. I received this in the mail and actually was very happy to receive it, because I did not know about the school renovation that happened in Peabody, and I am 100% for excellence in education, 100%. And that does not matter what kind of building you're in. It matters the teachers that you have and the programs that you have, and that does really not have to do with the building, except in, just organizing it well. So I just really wanted to say, I echo, Jeff Austin here, who spoke first. I really don't think that you have listened to the public. I think you have invited us to speak, but you have not dealt with those issues. My husband stood up here at one of the meetings and asked about the details of the renovation studies, and he was told to go look at the website. He could not find them at that time. So it's been very difficult, actually, to get the facts and to have studies done echoing no from the residents, a demographic study, which you asked for, to the tune of thousands of dollars, and then to have that presented no, and then have you wait till the end of the meeting after the evaluation with superintendent, to vote no. To vote yes in spite of the public's response. I think that's in error. I think it is disregarding what the public has to say. And I actually think that renovation can work based on this study that was done and accomplished in Peabody. So I really encourage us to continue and look at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? No.
Nope, okay. All right, anyone else in the room who would like to speak? Okay. At this point, we'll close public comments, I'm not sure how well those people, but we'll just let those people on Zoom know that
Yep.
really the best way to view the meeting is actually on the HW Cam YouTube, if they're wanting to watch the rest of the meeting. Thank you to all of you. All right, next on the agenda, we are going to, I'm going to ask David Polito to read a portion of the school committee protocols.
Sure. As elected members of the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee, we, including the superintendent, accept the high honor and trust that has been placed in us to ensure that the students of the district receive the best education possible. To that end, we hereby commit to the following in the conduct of our business. Excuse me. Number 11, a school committee meeting is a business meeting that is held in public, not a public meeting. The committee will make every effort to ensure meetings are effective and efficient.
Thank you. Amy is going to read a portion of our school committee mission statement.
The Hamilton Wenham Regional School District School Committee's mission is to ensure our schools create graduates with a passion for lifelong learning together with the critical skills needed to maximize their potential. The Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee will lead and inspire a district that attracts and retains high-quality educators by acknowledging and respecting their expertise and professionalism.
Thank you. Next up, pleased to say that we have a report from our student representative, Evie Bernard.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm the junior class president at the high school, and today I just wanted to give a quick update about what our schools have been up to in the district. So to start with Hamilton Wenham High School, there was a blood drive hosted on March 12th, and there were a total of 30 volunteers. DECA members competed at the state's competition, and we had 12 groups qualify for the international competition. As we're speaking, our school is participating in a March Madness Spirit Week. There are 4 teams, each named after colleges, and we've played pickleball, Family Feud, and we've had a pep rally, done trivia, and tomorrow we have a senior versus staff basketball game. And we had multiple students compete at the Greater Boston Regional History Day competition. And in 6 groups will advance to the Massachusetts State History Day contest. I'm not going to talk too much about the high school sports because I know Mr. Jenny Waldo will do a better job at summarizing them. But we had very successful winter season. Girls and boys basketball each competed in the tournament. The girls ski team was North Shore Ski League champs, and cheer went to the regional championships. And we had spring sports start on Monday. Moving on to the middle school, the 8th graders are planning their Washington, D.C. trip. The National Junior Honor Society hosted a fundraiser raffle, and in order to buy a raffle ticket, they had to bring in school supplies donations. And they are all preparing for the MCAS in April. For Winthrop School, for the 100th day of school, they hosted a food drive and collected a total of 351 pounds of food for the Accord Food Drive, or Food Pantry. And they had an open house on March 18th, and their family music mornings start on March 21st, and they perform the songs that they've been learning in their music classes. For Cutler School, they had a Bash the Trash Assembly, which is an organization that creates musical instruments from recycled materials. They also had a Learn the Ropes Jump Rope Assembly on March 17th, and also had an open house on March 15th. And then lastly, for Bucher, they had a book fair last week, and second grade art classes have been practicing their origami skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Evie. Do any members have questions for Evie? It's not really a question, but I am just really, I'm always impressed with the DECA group, but I think you said 12 going on to the international competition?
Yes, yeah, it's a big number this year.
That's amazing. Do you happen to know where the international competition is?
I believe it's in, I knew a couple years ago it was in Orlando, but it might be in California this year.
It's in Florida.
It's in Florida, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do want to just say thank you very much for that report. It gives us, it's just great to hear it right from a student, and I loved hearing about all the different things going on, especially you really put some color into the elementary school ones. The Bash the Trash sounds really intriguing, so
Yeah.
thank you very
You're
much
welcome.
for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Evie, you are welcome to stay. You're also welcome to hang out a couple minutes until we have a moment to recognize some of our student athletes, and you're also welcome to head out if you have places to be, which you might. So, totally up to you. Thank you for that. Next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items that they would like to have held from the consent agenda?
Nope.
Okay. David?
I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee approve tonight's consent agenda as presented in tonight's meeting agenda.
Second.
Second by Amy Kumberger. And we need to do a roll call. Julia?
Yes.
David Polito?
Yes.
David Frankel?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
And Dana's a yes, and that is unanimous of the 5 members present, and the motion passes.
He's up next.
All right. Next up, we are fortunate enough to have quite a few student athletes here. Mr. Tracy, are you going to do an introduction, or are we?
Sure, I'm going to introduce our athletic director, Craig Genualdo, to come up, and he will take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Tracy, and members of the school committee. I will not be playing in the teacher-student basketball game because, as you'll find out, we're really good. The students are really good, and I'll be keeping score because I don't want Sasha to send one of my shots back into the third row. I also take exception with the fact that I'll be better than Evie will be at speaking. She's incredible. So, with that said, coming off of what was a bit of a chaotic but highly successful fall, we had incredible success in all areas of the athletic department this year. First of all, participation was through the roof. It's the highest participation in the winter we've had since about 2016, 2017, percentage-wise. And I think a lot of that is, in the winter, a lot of the sports are very specialized, right? So, if you play basketball, you play basketball. If you ski, you ski. If you're a gymnast, you do gymnastics. If you're a swimmer, you swim. It's very specialized, and we've been able to partner with some other schools in the area, both as guests and as hosts. And we thank you for your support of that. That's a critical need in our schools these days, just to make sure we have viable teams, and we were able to do that in a few cases. And that's a real credit not only to the coaches who kind of foster that environment, some of which are here tonight, but also to the student athletes, whether they're going to another school and assimilating into that school's culture or welcoming other schools into ours. There's never an us and them mentality. And I think that partnership and that commitment by the young student athletes we have here today really brings a lot of the success that we've had, whether it's doing community service activities, whether it's in the classroom with our academics, whether it's how we comport ourselves in our sport on game days, on the fields and in the pools and on the slopes. And like I said, the participation was through the roof. We are going to recognize here tonight some incredibly special both individual and group efforts. I say this all the time as a parent of a young man who's a sophomore at a different high school in our league, who works very, very hard, and he's a valuable member to his team. I don't know if he's going to be sitting up here at a school committee meeting at in our town. That doesn't take away from what he did. And so what impresses me most about you is the way you represent your teammates. Similar to, accepting other schools into our school and our co-ops, whenever there's a freshman or a ninth grader, or in some cases an eighth grade waiver, you always welcome them and you make them feel a part of what you're doing, show them the ropes, and hopefully that's how we build tradition when the older student athletes in our schools kind of help the younger ones. And so as much as anything we're going to say, I'm incredibly impressed with all of you for that as well. We'll start with boys basketball, who had a 15-win regular season, including some incredible home wins against Georgetown, who just won the Division V state championship, as well as a home win against Manchester. Made the state tournament, packed house, great game, lost to an excellent Cathedral High School team down to the wire. Cal first team all-star was A.B. LaBelle, and our three captains were A.B. LaBelle, Liam O'Bannon, and Cole Scanlon. All three of them are at baseball practice right now. So we congratulate them. First-year coach Nikki DiMarino, a 2017 graduate, I believe, and a junior on the 2015 undefeated state title team. He's come back to coach. We always love our alumni coming back to help, and he did a great job, as did all those young men on that team. The next team, several of which were here tonight, had an incredible year. They won the Cape Ann League. The girls basketball team is the first time they've won the league since 2018. They had an incredible core of seniors that had played together for a number of years. They were all captains: Marin Cassidy, Sadie Gamber, Sasha McCoganov was here, and Annie Moynihan. Sasha and Annie were first team all-stars, and Sasha was the league MVP. It's the first league MVP we've had since I've been here. Even when we won the league several years ago, we didn't have that. Incredible talent to watch, incredible teammate. She was very, very sick during the state tournament and still gutted out an incredible performance and helped us in immeasurable ways. Her and her teammates were amazing. And one of the reasons they were able to come together and gel so well was Mark Cole, who's in the back row here. It's about 7th year with us, maybe 6th, 8th. Sorry, it's not a math class. He has been an incredible, steady hand for our kids, and it's a very competitive basketball league. Sometimes some of the other coaches say naughty words, but Mark never does. He's a good guy, and he's an incredible coach with our kids. So, yeah. So to all the girls basketball players, congratulations. We're really thankful for you. And again, I won't be playing tomorrow because of them. We have our cheer team, who has a special place in my heart. Oftentimes, they're at our basketball games cheering on our teams, but rarely do they get to go and compete and do their own thing. And with Coach Paquette, who's a math teacher at the high school, that's always something we stressed from day one with her was, look, you guys work your tails off and go compete like heck at your events. I was fortunate enough to be at a couple to watch the team, including captains Emily Little and Marin Webster. Marin's here, and we're incredibly grateful for her. They made the regionals for the second year in a row. It's the first time in at least 15 years that we've gone back to back. And they lost a lot of seniors last year, so the incredible senior leadership of Marin and Emily, to take in the new cheerleaders and maybe have to relearn trust among themselves. I channel my mother at your events. I watch like this. I get very nervous. And it's fun to go up before and see them all excited and see them right after. So I'm going to miss that next year. I'm going to miss seeing you, but they had an incredible year as well. The next team we'd like to include here are our gymnastics team. As a team, they qualified for the MIA North Sectionals. I don't recall as a team us going to the sectionals in a while. We've had individuals kind of qualify. They just keep getting better and better and better. We compete in another league because the Cape Ann League doesn't have it, and they kind of kicked us up to the big league because we kept winning the small one. Even though we're the smallest team in that league, we compete and almost pull off a league title every year. It's incredible. Again, channeling my mother, I couldn't even imagine walking on the beam and not falling off and hitting my head. So I don't know how they do the things they do. It's incredible. Cal First Team All-Stars were Ren Remiza on the uneven bars, and our captains, who have been incredible for a number of years now, are Julia Bile, Evelyn Duryea, Alita Carr, and I don't have Amelia's last name. I'm sorry, it got cut off. Like again, having gone to those meets and seen you guys compete in the sectionals was incredible. I don't know how you do what you do. Thank you for an incredible bunch of years. We're incredibly grateful for you. We did have a boys captain on our hockey team at Rockport. We compete at Rockport, and Cooper Miller was our captain. He was a goalie. The team was a little bit undermanned this year, and as a goalie, he sometimes saw 50 or 60 shots a game. And even if they lost, you know, the other coaches would be, who is that kid? And Cooper just had a great high school career. He's also a great golfer. Boys indoor track, the group that just keeps on going for boys and girls this year. They had an incredible year in the fall. Cal Open athlete of the meet was Ben Rich, an incredible performance. I had a friend who was at the meet who was a dad of a kid on another team, said, who is this kid? He like texted me out of nowhere, and he's like, I think he just won like 7 races in one night. I don't know how he did that. Just an incredible career. Cal First Team All-Stars, James Regan in the 1,000 meters, and Ben Rich, again, who ran a mile and a 2-mile race in the same day and won them both. I don't know how you don't go to and take a nap after that. It's just, it's incredible to watch you run. In the captains for that team was senior James Regan, Ben Rich, Martin Baum, and Clark Glidden, excuse me. The girls indoor track team also had an incredible year. We have a senior, Georgia Wilson, who is going to compete in college. She's amazing to watch. If you go to the New Balance Center and you sit up top, there's hundreds of kids running around, and you try to look for someone. It's hard to find them, right? But all of a sudden, there goes Georgia, and she just stands out among 100 kids, just a flash of lightning. And she was the Cal Athlete of the Year. She was also the Soccer Player of the Year back in the fall. Other first-team All-Stars with also just incredible, amazing performances. Charlotte Madden in the 2-mile, Georgia Wilson in the long jump. Georgia was also a state divisional champion in the long jump, and our incredible captains, again, who have been successful their entire career and are every bit wonderful people as they are athletes. Amira Fleming, Charlotte Madden, and Georgia Wilson. Thank all you seniors from the track teams. I know you'll be competing in the spring as well, most of you, but it's been a really fun ride watching you, so thank you. The boys and girls ski teams, Boys and Girls Ski is now 3 years old. We didn't have it for a long, long time, and it's incredibly well participated, and there's a lot of kids in it. Our boys ski teams captains were Cooper Bosom and Will Totten. We should say we partner with Ipswich. We host them. It's an incredible relationship. And the girls team, Evie's not here, but we have some, they won the league for the 2nd year in a row. So like Mascot won the league for 100 years, and then here we come, and all of a sudden we have 2 league titles. Some incredible performers on that team. Evie Bernard, who you saw earlier tonight, Avery Nissel, Sophie Happel, and Emma Ryan. They also competed in states and did a great job. We had, I'm going to skip swim for a minute, go down to wrestling. We wrestle at Salem High School, and we had some incredible performers. Again, we don't have a ton of athletes in these sports sometimes, but the ones we have are super committed and do a ton to get there. Captains were Justin Bauer and Kevin Spoon. Kevin was a Division II North sectional champion, and both Kevin and Justin were NEC All-Stars. I'm going to go back to swim now. We have a number of members of the swim community here, parents, coach, and athletes who just had a marvelous year. It was our first year partnering with Manchester. They're, you know, one of the people I would highlight to say how well you welcomed it. There was definitely some kind of stuff at first about how's this going to work, and we're going to swim at your pool, and how's everything happening. And it wasn't without, like, you know, 1 or 2 things early on. But I got a report from the Manchester athletic director who met with her captains, who were incredibly happy and pleased with the thing. They had some questions about next year, and can we do this to make it better? But ultimately, it was an incredible set of feedback that they gave her from one of their captain's parents, same thing. And so I want to certainly recognize all the success we had in the sport of swim this year. Boys captain was Colin Conway. The boys team won the Cal Sportsmanship Award, which, as you know, we take as seriously as anything else. And as a team, that takes the whole group. So although they were undermanned, they were very competitive this year in a way they weren't in the past, and we're excited to see how they do going forward as their numbers continue to grow. The girls' team, it's like a novel here with how much success we had, so bear with me as I read through all these. The Cal Swimmer of the Year was Catherine Reed, who had an incredible career. Coach Angela Suriello was the Female Coach of the Year. Like, again, a lot of variables this year, welcoming a new team, new coach, more athletes, and we had a lot of success, as we'll announce here in a second. Cal First Team All-Stars in the 200 medley were Libby McKinnon, Sydney Hem, Zoe Suriello, Zaketa, Sophia Novak. I might have one of those wrong. Sophia Novak. And then in the 200 free and 100 back, I have these backwards. Sorry. 200 relay medley, Libby, Sydney, Zoe, and Sophia. Sydney in the 100 breast, and I think Sophia, Zoe, and I'm missing, I apologize. One of these is written wrong. But anyway, all those names were first-team All-Stars and did incredible jobs in your events. If I have the event wrong, I truly apologize. I have a comma missing here. But again, from going from where we were last year, new coach, new co-op, and all the individual and team success, as well as the Boys Sportsmanship Award, really spoke to how well all you guys did together. The captains are Catherine Reed, Libby McKinnon, Ava Smith, and Sydney Hem. We're incredibly grateful for you. To the seniors, we want to wish you good luck. We know some of you are on to a lot bigger and better things, and we can't wait to hear from you. And to all the athletes that are coming back across the board, we're excited to see where you go in the future. I probably exceeded my 15 minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Tracy. It's just, we did too well. I
Right on.
apologize
Good.
for that. And thank you for having us. We're always grateful, and it really is an honor to work for all of you. It's a journey to see you go from your freshman year to now, and you're all at different stages, and it's wonderful to see. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Would all the athletes be willing to stand up so we can see all of you and applaud? Would all the athletes please stand up? Thank you so much. If you are willing, I'd love it if you guys would come and we could take a picture, maybe with the superintendent? Maybe?
Looks like a big crowd. Oh, our paparazzi's taking it.
Got 'em?
Gonna go in?
No.
You gotta get in there.
Why not?
How about them?
Someone get, there you go.
Here we go. Generals. Great, awesome. Congratulations. Thank you all. Good night. Nice job. Thanks.
Thank you all, and thank you for that. That's always a joy to get to hear all of the athletes'
Yeah.
achievements this year. It's really exciting. Thank you. Okay. All right. Next up, so every year we provide a one-pager for the annual town meeting. We discussed draft last meeting, and I'll turn it over to Amy and Eric. I don't know, there was
Okay,
Edits done.
there were edits done. Eric, do you want to take this, or you want me to?
You might as well. You made all the
I did?
edits.
Okay.
Fantastic job.
So last meeting, we reviewed this draft, well, a different draft. This is my updated version. Some of the things that I addressed were increasing the visual of our budget increase on the column on the right by using bold and also bolding the reason behind the budget increase. I edited the copy on the left-hand column just to clear up some confusion about summer school versus our other efforts. And then on the back, I changed the photo out. Feedback from the committee was, would rather see some indoor learning spaces. And then addressing the amount of copy. So I had two versions last time. One had a really long amount of copy. There was a secondary version that was more bulleted, but we had a little copy we wanted to pull over from version 1. So that box in the bottom left corner is my stab at kind of separating that info just because it's long form written and not a bullet point, to address a question that I get most frequently asked about why we don't just repair both Winthrop and Color schools. I believe that is it.
Yep.
I mean, people can ask questions. I just wanted to start off by saying I really appreciated it, just visually on the back there. I appreciated that little box on the bottom because I think I was one of the people that was concerned about it, the blending in the way before. So I think this really, for me, that really solved the issue. So thank you for that. Does anyone, basically, in order to bring this to in a timely manner to the town meeting, we need to approve it this evening. So I think we should start by just, does anyone have any questions or comments about this?
Which town meeting?
Both.
What's the date of the town meeting that we're
April
talking?
5th.
Yeah, so,
The towns have requirements about any documentation that's going to be provided.
okay.
And that's why,
Yeah, the
and that's
moderators.
why we discussed it at the last meeting, so that we would have.
I got it. So, I do have a comment. I think the design's excellent,
Oh.
so I have no problem with the design. I have a problem with the content.
Oh.
And to Jeff Austin's point, and many others, I think there's a strong disputation about how thoroughly alternatives were examined. And therefore to present this as a concrete fact, I think kind of understates
To present what as concrete fact?
that these alternative scenarios were fully costed out.
Can you show me where you're pointing to?
Oh, right in this box here. The price tag is estimated, why don't we just repair the schools? And we'd really, I don't really believe that we fully examined all the possible scenarios for repairing the schools.
So
I
I'm
don't
gonna-
buy off on that.
I'm really just going to push back in that it is 100% fine to have an opinion
Mhm.
that the school, that project that is on the ballot, that people don't have to vote yes, they can vote no.
Yeah.
But it definitely happened that there were alternatives that were investigated.
Yes, some, I agree.
That definitely happened, and it's not okay to imply that that didn't occur, because
No.
it did.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying there were many that were not. That these, I think, were straw horses, that were convenient ways to exclude those possibilities, but there are many other much less costly scenarios that were not examined. And the statement is much disputed that no reimbursement from MSBA can be obtained, but that's conditional on adhering to an ed plan that was very much built around the consolidated school. So
So-
it doesn't acknowledge the ability, hang on,
May I?
to alter the ed plan to meet it.
So.
Other scenarios.
I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to let other people. So you know what? I'm not. Go ahead. You say something.
A few things. One being, this is a conversation that we've had over and over. To bring it up now is just frankly inappropriate. The information is out there. The statement that is in this document is true, whether or not you're of the opinion that the educational plan was written one way or another, that's your opinion. But it's not, this statement that is in here is true. The purpose of this being on the meeting is to approve it for town meeting. This language appeared on one of the versions we showed last time.
Correct. The version that we discussed last time, the concern was literally that it didn't have this colorful box around it.
I
and
did
that-
start to object to it last time too, by the way. So
I'm sorry, what?
This is not. I said I got into objecting to it at the last meeting.
I thought the objection last time was over how much the percentage of the budget or the percentage of the project that was getting reimbursed. I feel like we talked about that, but I
We
feel
did
like
that
to
too.
talk about this today, after 2 years of this project, is just,
Right. I will say that the last meeting, David, you actually made a really, I do remember the point about the reimbursement cost and making that clear. And that was, I think, a helpful conversation because that was something that could be and was clarified through the conversation to make sure that that information is clear. That's a very different kind of a feedback that, so I'm sorry, it sounded like David had something and Eric has something.
I just wanted to remind people, this only represents what's on the warrant.
Right.
So there's only one article on the warrant for this, so that's all it represents. There's no other options. That's why there's no other things listed here. So the front is the warrant article for the school budget. The back is the warrant article for the school building project. And again, people will have the opportunity to vote yes or no. That's all it represents. It's just a representation, so people know these are the things from the school side that are on each of the town warrants.
Right, and to be clear, the way that the process works is when you do the feasibility study, the idea behind the feasibility study is that you will come forth with a proposal for the citizens to decide whether they would like to pursue or not. There isn't a mechanism to provide 4 or 5 or 10 fully fleshed out options. That's not a possibility. So, David, go ahead.
Oh, excuse me, I don't know, I don't think this is a proper time to get too deep into the weeds here, but I guess my first question is, like, David, what's your understanding of what the ed plan actually is?
Sorry, I've read it. I wouldn't
No, not what it says, but what it actually is, and what it entails, and how it came about. Right, because there's this dialogue now going that, well, that's saying that, like, we're getting no reimbursement because of the ed plan if we just change the ed plan, right? That's ignoring what the ed plan actually is. The ed plan is not taking into any account what any school is whatsoever. It's the leadership team, right, the teachers, and everyone getting together and saying, what do we see as being the best thing for our students moving forward? Right? What do we see? What do we need? What are the resources? Where do we see education going? Where do we see that we need these kids to be learning, right? And where they need to go? And what do we need to do to be able to give them those things? Then, after creating this plan with nothing on the board, do we then go and actually investigate how the buildings we have do, would, or could fit those? Right? So in understanding, to then go back and say, well, why don't you just change the ed plan and then we can convert, right? That's moving backwards, right? That's exactly doing everything wrong, right? I'm not saying that this school building is right. You can vote however you want. All I'm saying is the people that we pay, we trust with our children's education got together and came up with this plan that was recognized as being one of the best plans. The professionals that do this day in and day out as one of the best ed plans they had ever seen, right? That we then made our decisions based off of that ed plan on we feel using the professionals that we hired, right, to meet those plans. Right? To now go back and say, well, we could, there's cheaper options, there were. But if we had the opportunity, that's what we're given. We're given this opportunity to create the best path forward that we could figure out how to forge for the children in our district. And we did that. And then we tried to create a plan to create a building environment to actually give them the technology, the flexible spaces, the educational breakout spaces, right? All of these flexible things that is modern day education that cannot be obtained in the current infrastructure we have around, right? And that's why, after all of this insight, all this research was done independently, the conclusion came to be the way it is. To now go back and actually say, oh, if we just change this to fit this, right, that's moving backwards. That's not what we're here for. We're here to try and move forward and bring our district going from good to great, right, from great to greater. This is the option that's been voted on many, many times, that is now on the table, it's now on the warrant, and this is the information that just as clearly as we possibly can be, stating the information of where we are right now and what we're voting on.
No, I do understand it. I think my objection was to the claimed alternatives, and I think I said specifically last time that in interrogating or engaging with Eric on the foundations of where these numbers came from, they were based on rules of thumb, averages. They weren't based on any bottoms-up
No,
assessment.
they were created by a professional estimating company.
Yeah, using rules of thumb.
Right, again, David, because you can't do an entire feasibility project because it's extraordinarily expensive. And so you can't get the same level of detail for all 14 potential plans. That's why you have, some of them are estimates. You're not gonna have the same level of detail for a plan, right, at the beginning stages than you are
Well,
at the end.
that's why I don't like it being used. I don't mind all the rest of it. That presents what it is.
Okay.
But when you start putting an argument into it, implicit argument, then I think you overstep the mark. That's my opinion.
There's not an argument. There's nothing that isn't factual in that statement.
Yeah, but
I
it
mean,
represents, it gives the appearance that we've said we've examined everything else, this was the only alternative. And
To
that's
my mind,
simply,
it is. I mean,
well,
just
that
kind
may
of-
be true, it isn't to me.
So-
It isn't to a lot of other people.
Go ahead.
If
And
you're
then I
listening,
do want to make sure Julia gets.
if you in
heard.
fact
Yeah,
are
I'm sorry,
listening to
Julia.
the feedback you're getting.
Well, so I just want to add something to David Polito's point. You know, I've been going to events like at Cutler when we had the open house, and people in opposition of this project always preface when they talk about the ed plan by saying, I really appreciate our educators and our teachers and what they've done, but, and they don't. This was such a huge undertaking for the people on the school building committee, and to go back at this time and question everything that they've done and all of their expertise, I just find incredibly disrespectful. Sorry, Julia.
Julia, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Really?
No.
Oh, I'm
she's
sorry.
okay.
I thought that you.
No, I agree with what you just said.
Okay. All right, let's, before we go any further, we maybe should just get a motion on the table so that we have something that we're,
Oh, sure. I approve I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee vote to approve, excuse me, the town budget flyer as presented in tonight's exhibit.
do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Amy Kumberger. Thank you, I just think it's good to be within a motion. Does anyone else have any specific comments, questions, things that they, on this?
No, I think there's a lot here, and it's about as clear as you can make a novel
Yeah, I think it was,
into a flyer.
Yeah, it was a lot to put on there.
Listen, I knew what I was doing when I volunteered Amy to do it.
And I do really appreciate the effort that went not only in the initial draft, but in between. It's a lot to revise, and I think, yeah. All right, anybody else have anything else on this?
Good, Julia?
No? Okay.
Yeah, that's just
Looks like we're ready to vote. David Polito,
Yes.
David Frankel,
Nope.
Amy,
Yes.
Julia,
Yes.
Dana's a yes. That is 4 in favor and 1 oppose, and the motion passes.
Thank you for doing it, Amy.
Thank
Thank you for reading my chicken scratch.
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
My facts are draft copies with handwritten stuff, so thank you for it.
All right, and that gives you enough time, Eric, to get it to, I can't remember.
Have it get it
which-
Monday.
I think it's Hamilton has a very tight deadline, so.
They want it by next week.
Okay,
So I'll send it to the moderators on Monday.
okay. Next up, this is just a little bit of housekeeping, Eric.
Yeah, so we've actually been through this already. This looks
This
familiar.
may look familiar to you.
The initial person who was assigned to send us the ICC, the initial compliance certification, this is for the high school roof, we were accepted in that program. We voted this back in December, and the form was incomplete, so that I didn't want to just have to re-sign a form without bringing it back to the committee to say, we have the form has been, the biggest thing is the project number has been added on it, which was missing off the original, but it comes from the state. They sent us one, we put it on the agenda, voted it, and then
I'm just going to jump in and just make it clear that we didn't forget to put the
Right,
project
no, it doesn't
number
come
on
from
there.
us. Yeah, it doesn't come
The
from
state
us.
forgot to put
I
the
was
project
about to harass you guys.
when we signed it and sent it back, they said, oh, we forgot to put the project number on. There's a little bit different language on there, but they're all very similar to what was in the last document. And they're just looking for us to re-sign a clean document, but I wanted to bring it back to the committee so that people could see it. We're not even in feasibility yet. This is just literally one of the 3 check boxes that has to be done before they have their board meeting.
And this is for the high school roof,
High
right?
school roof.
David, would you be willing to make a motion?
Sure. Excuse me. I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee approve, are we approving, or are we having you sign?
I think we're authorizing us to
Authorized
sign.
signatures.
All right, there we go. All right, so I move that the Hamilton Wenham Regional School Committee authorize Superintendent Tracy and any other available party or necessary party to sign the MSBA initial compliance certification approval as presented in tonight's agenda.
Do we have a second? Second by Amy. Anybody have any other questions or comments on that?
Yeah, do we have any estimate of an updated estimate of the cost of the roof and the likely subsidy levels?
We won't until we get into feasibility. So this is just the first stages to say that, we're interested to get involved. They give us 3 things that we need to send to them first. They have a board meeting, they'll invite us into feasibility, and we also have to figure out how to fund feasibility for that project. So we're working with the MSBA to try to figure out what average projects of this size are around the state right now, and that's how you figure out the amount you need for feasibility and schematic design. So it's very similar to the building process, although very much truncated, because you don't have to interview an OPM, you don't have to interview a designer, they assign them to you, and then they take it from there, so.
And does this become a creature of the school building committee, or does it stay strictly with the school committee?
This project, I would recommend just doing a school building committee again, only so you have somebody managing all the different meetings that are gonna happen. We're looking at other options too. There are some new options out there for, I don't know the exact name of it, but it's a poured liquid roof that's now available that has a 25-year lifespan that's a little bit cheaper than replacing. So we're just trying to figure out.
Based on how cool that sounds?
No, it is kind of cool, but we're just trying to figure out different options. So we're trying to figure out what's the best direction to go for the longest lifespan for that roof.
Other questions? Okay, looks like we're ready to vote. Julia,
Yes.
David Polito,
Yes.
David Frankel,
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Dana is a yes, and the motion passes unanimously of the 5 members who are present. Thank you, and we'll get that signed today.
Yep.
Okay, at our most recent meeting, David Smith from the Hamilton Board of Health brought forth a letter, a recommendation from the Board of Health, and school committee member asked that we put it on this evening's agenda as an exhibit, and so I did so. I'm not really sure what we're looking for on this. It's a recommendation. I will say, I will say that David Smith, I should give you a look. David Smith did call me the day of before he came to our meeting and said that he had this letter of recommendation. I said to him that I thought that the letter ought to be delivered to the district and the school building committee rather than to us. And he said that he would prefer to deliver it to us, so that he did.
I think he did it to both.
I don't know,
If you
but my
feel the
intention
way.
is that we certainly, my feeling is, and I've spoken to Eric, is that it certainly should be passed on to the school building committee, because this is sort of out of our purview at this moment. But I'm happy to discuss it. It was requested, I think Trent actually asked me to put it on, but you might also have, David, I'm not sure. So I don't know if you have something that, an action that you're looking for, or something that you want to discuss, other than bringing it to the school building committee, which I would say that we will do.
No, the action, I think, would be to charge the superintendent to charge his facilities director to do what the boards of health requested, which is pretty clear.
Oh, that wouldn't be the facility director.
Are you talking about in the, are you
It-
talking
it
about in
wouldn't
the
be.
other schools? Are you talking about in the other schools? I
Yeah.
think this was directed towards the,
The new school.
new
the
school.
No, it's
project.
directed, if you read the paragraph, it says, therefore, we strongly recommend the school committee and the school building committee explicitly commit to incorporating ASHRAE 241 into the school final design and construction. Additionally, we urge the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District to engage qualified HVAC vendors to assess all 5 district schools and develop budgetary proposals for retrofitting these buildings to meet or exceed ASHRAE 241 standards. We request that these budgetary estimates be presented to the school committee, school building committee, town select boards and FinComs by May 30, 2025. So it's pretty specific.
Well, so the recommendation of a standard is something the Board of Health did. I mean, I guess you can make a motion if you want to. I mean, you know,
Sure.
budgetary estimates to retrofit HVACs in all of the schools by May 30th seems
Not realistic.
not realistic to me, and
Well,
astronomically expensive.
well, yeah, maybe that's the point, that you're about to suck up, if this large project happens, you suck up so much oxygen, financially speaking, you won't be able to do anything else. And that's a problem.
Do you have a
A
motion?
motion, yeah, I think a motion is good.
Well, yeah, the motion would be that the school committee charges the superintendent to charge the facilities director to do exactly what this letter lays out, without spelling it out word for word.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. few questions.
Okay, let me try to restate it. So let me understand. Let me make sure I get it right. Your motion is that the school committee direct the superintendent to direct the director of facilities
Directing.
to comply with the second to last paragraph of this document?
Yeah, basically. And to your point, if he comes back and says, oh, this is like impossible, of course we will listen to that.
So I have more
that's the request.
specific questions
Yeah.
that might be helpful.
Sure.
So first is a statement. I think the timeline is a little premature, given we don't know what's going to happen at town meeting with the new building. So the questions I have are costs. So beyond just the cost of getting this estimate, I would like to know what the cost of getting these estimates would be before I agree to direct the superintendent as such. I also have questions, but overall, I just feel like it's too early to ask this sort of thing, especially for the new school building where we're not in a design phase. You know, we don't know, we have more questions than answers yet for this.
Well, just a minute, the superintendent gave me an estimate that he got from his specialist, which was $3 to $5 a square foot. There's 127,000 square feet. You can work it out.
To just give an estimate, or that's?
No, no,
It's
no,
just
no.
for the new
Do the work.
building.
That's for the
just-
new, that's for
Right,
the
so,
new building.
and I guess maybe, and this is, I'm
But-
appreciative that your motion was about this so that I understand, because I will say, in my understanding from David Smith, both in my brief conversation ahead of the meeting and then the meeting when he presented, my understanding was that his focus and his interest, and that may be a misunderstanding on my part, was about the new building, about ensuring that wanting it to meet this ASHRAE 241 standard, which is a higher standard and a different standard than is, that was my understanding.
Okay.
And it sounds like this motion is a little bit different. This is about this second to last paragraph, talking about trying to bring all of the schools up to this higher.
Well, it's weird because
Yeah.
the memo itself seems all one direction except for this one
No, no,
paragraph.
right.
One paragraph
Right.
seems to be,
No, I think the timing of it was probably driven somewhat by feeling some urgency that we didn't go ahead and get approval for a building
I'm
that's going to
gonna-
last 40 or 50 years that doesn't meet the most current ASHRAE standard.
Right, but you've decided that you want to meet this standard. That's not the standard that the state has decided on. You've picked a different standard than the state has decided on.
The state is...
You can say that you don't agree with the state,
No,
that's
no,
fine,
the
but I'm
sta-
just
the state-
clarifying.
No, MSBA has made it clear that there's extra bonuses to schools that go over and beyond their minimum standard. Their minimum standard is 62.1, which is decades old, and has significant drawbacks to it.
So
That's
if
why
there-
that's why ASHRAE developed
I-
241.
I can say, I'm pretty sure that if meeting this standard would be at a cost savings, then there's not going to be an issue following this
Yeah.
recommendation.
Well,
I don't think that that's what we're anticipating, that this is going to be a cost savings. This is going to be expensive.
well,
Well,
I have another,
that's why they asked to
Request.
get estimates for a start, so
So
that people
another
can make
piece-
judgments. You're making a judgment with absolutely no knowledge of the cost.
No, I'm saying that if we were to get, again, I'm focusing on the new building. If we were to provide this, which we should, this came from the Board of Health, which my understanding is that you didn't participate in any conversation about this at the Board of Health. Is that correct?
No,
That's what he said here.
no,
And
I recuse myself from any vote.
Yeah, that's not what he
But,
said.
Yeah,
He said you didn't participate in any of the discussions.
well,
I'm feeling like that's not accurate.
and it's not really relevant.
Okay,
I've-
well, what I want to say is this, is that this came from the Board of Health. we're going to give it to the school building committee
No, I think
as a recommendation as they are doing their work. That's very different than what you're talking about now. So let's talk about, the part that you're talking about now is about retrofitting the other schools.
exploring what the cost would be, the cost and the impact. And by the way, vendors don't charge for doing budgetary estimates. They live for it.
So there's more than just the installation too. So the whole standard isn't available. You have to pay for it, which it was expensive and I didn't want to pay for it. But there is a summary geared towards schools. And from what my understanding is, part of it incorporates UV light within the system, which again, like I would love for our schools to have 0 germs. That would be amazing as a parent. However, I'm concerned about the upkeep as well. So like not just installation, but over years of replacing UV lights, things like that. So I just,
Where do you get the UV light? I don't think UV light's any part of 241 that I've read.
so I was only able to see a summary, so I don't know, maybe whoever wrote.
It's primarily around, at peak risk times, upping the filtration and ventilation rates to set per occupant levels in order to restrict the transmission of disease, for one thing.
Okay, so I guess,
Okay, so I do want to.
Can we repeat the motion for
Yeah, I was
Trent?
so I was just
Can
going
I
to
say something?
yes.
I do want to, I'm going to try to repeat the motion. Julia, are you okay if I do
Oh, wait,
that?
can I say something? Are we discussing or is this question?
Just making a motion.
No, we're discussing. I'm just going to repeat the motion because Trent entered the room and he wasn't here before. So
Yes.
I'm going to repeat the motion.
Okay.
And then I take full responsibility. I myself got a little bit outside the motions and we're supposed to call each other out on that. So
Should have called you
somebody
out.
should have yelled at me there. So I think we need to stay within the motion. And so Trent and Julia, I don't know if you can hear me, but so, and please make sure that I get it right. We are looking at the Board of Health recommendation document, and David Frankel made a motion, which Amy Kumberger seconded, and the motion was looking at the second to last paragraph in that document, and the motion was to ask that the school committee direct the superintendent to direct the director of facilities to comply with the entirety of the second to last paragraph. Did I get that right?
Yes, you're right.
Julia, I'm sorry, did you have a question, comment?
So the motion is that is the motion that we would recommend?
No, the motion is that we.
Or the motion is that we would
would
incorporate
direct.
these standards?
What?
The motion is that we would incorporate
No.
the ASHRAE 241.
No. The motion is specifically about the second to last paragraph, which doesn't.
Yes.
So it is that we would direct the superintendent to comply with that, which would require assessment of all 5 district schools, develop budgetary protocols for retrofitting the buildings to meet or exceed the ASHRAE 241 standards, and it says, we request the budgetary estimates be presented to the school committee, school building committees, town select boards, and FinComs by May 30th.
Oh, that's the motion, that we do all of those things.
That is the motion that's on the table right now.
Okay, well, first of all, that's completely not something I think that we could do. I'm speaking as myself. Secondly, I think that we are allowed to take recommendations into account, and it doesn't mean the recommendation is invalid. It just means that it's the recommendation, it's happening right now. I don't think necessarily we need to vote 100% on it right now, and that is just me. I also don't see how we could do the budgetary estimate by May 30th, considering everything we have going on with the town meetings, and also considering that the budget has passed. So would this be like a secondary budget those are my questions. Like, would this be a secondary budget? Would we have to revise the budget that we've already passed?
Right.
I don't know.
Right, so that's a good question. Would you be looking for this because the FY '26 budget has already been completed?
Exactly.
It
And
hasn't
do
been
we have to revise it, and then would we have to present a revised budget to the town meeting?
That would entirely up to the school committee. When anything happened as a result of finding out what it costs, depends on what we find out, rather than,
I imagine she was looking for you that made the motion. Would you be interested, or would you be saying you're hoping to do this in FY '26, or you?
well, I don't think this paragraph implies when the actual implementation took place. It's merely trying to get us actual information on which to make decisions.
So, yeah, just if I may, in terms of...
Right, but we have to vote on a budget at town meeting.
I don't think she can hear you.
Yeah.
So Julia, what David is saying is that the motion doesn't actually say that this would need to be carried out in a specific timeline. What he's saying is that the estimate for cost would be presented. We would be presented by May 30th. That's what he's saying. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Correct. Okay.
Got it.
First, sorry I'm late. It's been a long day.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know.
Second is we do have a new capital finance subcommittee. And in terms of time frame and the scope of this project, it seems like having estimates at the time of the next capital finance, or the first, I guess, capital finance subcommittee. I'm getting the committee wrong, right? Because we have like the task force that we just formed, and that's the one I'm trying to,
Yeah,
what's that called? The advisory. Okay. Do we have a name for the minutes? Because I don't recall exactly what, I'm on it, I know that.
right, it's the capital advisory process in the capital advisory.
You're talking about where
committee.
you're connecting with the towns and the capital
Yeah.
project. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the process is that we kick off in April.
Yep.
This is the one Trent's talking, because you're on that group now.
I'm on that group now.
So in April, we kick off the new capital process that was voted last year. That is, April through the beginning of the next school year is when we're gathering that information. The subcommittee would meet. That subcommittee would determine priorities of projects and then send that to the capital finance subcommittee to determine what makes sense financially, and then that would ultimately come back into the budget process in November, which is a little tricky with this deadline, because the budget process for us, as you know, starts late October, early November, which is why we designed it the way we did, so that everything could feed into the next budget cycle.
Okay, so the subcommittee, when is the projected meeting of that?
It will happen, I think it's in late May, early June, the first one.
The first one,
There'll be more than one. but-
When would be the meeting that we would be making decisions on priorities? That would be in the fall.
It would probably be in the fall as we approach the budget process, because it would have to go back to the capital finance committee in time to make the recommendation for the budget process. So
Okay.
probably August, September, and then October, make the recommendation as we begin the budget process.
So granted that we wouldn't be able to act on new financial information from this motion between now and town meeting, because there's no time, would a reasonable amount of time be by August 15th, such that we would get in front of that capital finance meeting?
I mean, there's a lot going on here. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented for another body to really give us this sort of mandate and report by date, excuse me. We haven't even discussed as a committee whether this is something we even want to, to move towards, that this is a priority of this committee. And this May 30th date is just completely unreasonable, given town meeting, and we could have three completely,
Right, we don't-
completely different looking.
We have no idea what's
board.
going to happen at town meeting. I mean,
Well,
in
in
other
a
words,
town meeting,
budget
but
is
not
on
even
town
that, we have an
meeting,
election
there's-
coming up also.
Right.
With the
There's
three seats are
elections,
up.
there's,
So all the subcommittees are gonna get, reassigned within the next few weeks, and, could be a different set of people sitting here at the table.
I don't think, though, that, like, the wording of this, and I know I'm late, and I'm tired, I'm sorry. The wording of this really directs, like, the 5 schools, right? Including
Again, I don't know
the
if you.
potential new school, right?
If you look at it, it's all about the new school, and then all of a sudden it throws in the 5 school. Like, talking to the SBC about, what it would really take, what addition, because I know the ASHRAE 241 standard is something that we have discussed as a, possible upgrade there, right? So that's sort of easy, and that could work into the plan pretty easily, but then to go and, say that we're gonna retrofit the entire district to this standard that we're not required to meet by the state on the recommendation of another board, and given another, given this sort of date to report by to all town boards, right, is very unrealistic, and again, I can't think of another word besides unprecedented.
But, I mean, can we admit that environmental factors likely play an important part in the students' learning experience
So
and health?
we can,
Can
but
we-
I
can
mean,
we
I think
give
it would be
that?
more of a priority if we had these sort of sick clusters going throughout our community that we were suddenly panicking about. I'm not saying that I'm against looking into this, however, just sort of being told that, like, now, put aside everything else that we're doing, that we've been discussing for the, better part of a year now, and as we look forward to what as we look forward to what, our next set of goals are gonna be as a committee, I have no problem in discussing this is, looking into moving there, excuse me, moving into this being something that we want to pursue. However, I don't see it as the priority to the point where we have to be interrupting everything that we're doing, have Curtis stop what he's doing, even though we've stopped him,
But
twice
that
every
becomes a
month
point.
for the past 6 months to go and, to go look at a new, most important set of standards or whatever that he now needs to go and find. Excuse me. It's our job to sort of make sure that as a district, we're giving guidance and direction to, make it as easy as possible for administration and our teachers, and to continuously be, telling them to stop what they're doing and adding things onto their plate and then giving them these short timelines to meet is not in the best interest of success for our district.
I agree, but I think that your whole argument is around the timeline. And that's where I'm like, if it's given that, and I think that there's so much on the agenda that it's best to come to a conclusion for that. That's just my personal opinion at some point in time. I know I'm late. If we can, if we can give that, environmental health is important and equity for our students is important. It's, one of the guiding principles that we try to, enact. And we have 5 schools and nobody has ever investigated this. Like, it's a matter of time frame, right? I agree with you that saying that this should be like the number one important thing right now is not, I think, the best path forward. But could we give it a time frame? And that's just because I think that if we do, then we can have it happen when it's not pressing against things happening right now.
Right.
And if we don't, then we're likely saying it's never going to happen. And I think that we just have to make that decision.
Yeah, no, I think you made a really good point there. I would like to see it and like to start, for us to start thinking about how do we roll these into, I don't want to use the word mandate, but how do we roll these into, our discussions with Eric and, Vinny and, everyone else, as this is part of the things that we want you to start looking forward to, moving as part of your plan? Are you coming up with, an assessment for, an overall assessment of the buildings over the summer, right? If so, can we add this to that list, right? When does it make the most sense?
I think that's an excellent approach to it, right? When we don't have students in the buildings, when it's not interrupting, teaching, when we could have plenty of time to schedule people to come in and do free, and that could potentially get in front of a fall capital subcommittee.
Need to come
up with a
cool-
name.
You need a new name.
Can I just say
So-
two things?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I wanted to look up the thing, so we had the right dates. The CIP calendar is April through August is really reviewing any projects that end up getting submitted in April. September, the subcommittee would hold meetings to review the priorities and then prioritize them, and then they would send that to the Capital Finance Subcommittee in October to review it in preparation for the budget process. The other thing I would say is I would suggest maybe talking to legal about this because of the binding nature of the notification. We operate as our own municipality. The towns don't have the ability to bind the school department, just as we don't have the ability to bind the towns. That's my only suggestion. I think if we decide to pursue it as the recommendation, then I think it should be on the CIP calendar that we have developed for the reason, so that it meets the budget time.
I just want to say, Eric, I'm certainly comfortable with running it by legal, but I will say, I feel like David Smith was very clear. I feel like David Frankel has been clear, and I feel like the letter is clear that this is a recommendation and a request. I don't think.
It's not a mandate.
Correct, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. At least that's my understanding, and I believe
I'm
that's.
just saying the motion includes the whole
Right.
paragraph, so
So-
the deadline is a problem.
Right. And I do want to focus back on the motion. Anybody else have any, I do have something I want to say on the motion. Does anyone else have anything to say on the motion before us?
Question, actually.
Hi, Jen.
All right,
Because I have been listening to the meeting on my way home from Newburyport. I also read the summary that you written. Is there a danger that we're potentially exposing children to ultraviolet light?
so I'm going to just pause and say, I think that while that's an important question, I think it's outside of the
Fair enough.
motion. Because the motion is really about, do we want to get cost estimates for retrofitting to meet this standard? If we were to get those cost estimates and it turned out that we were able to answer the questions about how they work, it doesn't say we would actually have to, in other words, if there were safety concerns or cost concerns, which I'm guessing there will be, then
Or later.
those would be later. I mean, is that your
Yeah.
understanding?
Yeah.
This paragraph does not say
This is
that
really
you'll.
about discovery.
Okay,
So,
okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, I'm in support of moving the timeline. I like the idea of the capital finance super subcommittee reviewing more. I would also be interested in a recommendation from the school building committee, given that there's people on that committee who have more of an expertise. So I don't know if that's an amendment, a friendly amendment to
Which
the
is,
motion,
which
or-
is kind of in the rest of the rest of the letter addresses that they're recommending to the school building committee, talking about. And I mean, I will just say to that part, I mean, my feeling is that we will pass this letter on to the school building committee, as is appropriate for us to do. I mean, we don't know whether the project is going to pass or not.
Right.
So in other words, if the project passes, then the school building committee, this is one of many, many recommendations that they will receive. I actually inquired with Eric. I said, well, how would it work, for example, if the fire department has a new recommendation that they, and he actually shared with me that that's actually already occurred, that other departments have, new regulations, new things that come up, and they bring those directly to the school building committee, and then those, just like this, it's a recommendation being made, it gets, costed out, and decisions get made about this costs a certain amount of money, and because if the project were to pass, there's a cap, you can't go over that cap, so then you have to make decisions about if we choose to do this, what other things are we going to take away? And that is true of all of those things. Like, in other words, if suddenly you need 12 more fire hydrants, it's the same conversation. I made that up. To anyone who knows anything about firefighting, that's not a real thing. But, then it's the same conversation, like, okay, that's gonna cost X amount, how do we take something else? I mean, so I think,
But as I said, there's, my understanding of MSBA is that they specifically incentivizing going beyond the basic standards for indoor air quality. And it's like 1% of the total value of the project, so you do the math. It's significant.
so I don't think that, I guess I only speak for myself, but I genuinely don't think that if it turns out that it is less expensive to build the building with a higher standard for air quality, I don't think anyone is going to be opposed to that.
Good, I'm very glad to hear that.
I think the concern is more about, I think I've said it already. This is
Yeah,
going to get
we just
passed
need more
on. We'll
information.
see how much it costs. We'll see how it gets
Yeah,
implemented in the new
that's all-
building.
That's all I'm asking for.
But the motion before us is not about the new building. It's about the existing buildings.
And actually, it's both, because of the way that it was worded, right? And that's what I'm looking at now, because the
It was meant to cover, I think.
right, but we're at two different things here within this paragraph, because you're explicitly committing to incorporate the ASHRAE 241 standards into the new school building construction, while urging the district to look into vendors for the remaining 5 schools, or for the 5 schools throughout the district, to develop budgetary proposals, right? So those are two very different things, where one, you're basically, we'd be mandating the SBC to include the ASHRAE 241 standards under this
Okay.
proposal.
So I'm going to just, we have a motion on the table. Do we feel like people are ready to vote on the motion that's on the table?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try to make sure that I understood what David Polito just said. Yeah, okay. Okay, the motion on the table, well, okay. All right, I will repeat it, but I will repeat it, but I do understand what you just said.
No, I get it too, I just wouldn't know
okay.
what putting on.
The motion on the table is that the school committee would direct the superintendent to direct the director of facilities to comply with the entirety of the second to last paragraph of the recommendation by the Board of Health. Correct, David?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I guess with the possible exception of the date, I think was Trent's point.
Well, and, I mean, in other words, so we've had lots of points, like, in other words, I'll just say, I just heard David's point, that it does, in fact, that paragraph says, we strongly recommend the school committee and school building committee explicitly commit to incorporating, so that's a little unclear, like, they're strongly recommending, but they're saying we explicitly commit.
Right.
Those are two kind of different things. Recommending, my understanding from the presentation by David Smith, my conversation with David Smith, and the gist of this letter in general is that it is a recommendation.
That's correct.
But David Polito is correct that it does say explicitly commit in this paragraph.
Well, maybe the way to word it is to contract it down to the language that we simply assign to get the budgetary estimates.
Yeah, so
And bring them back to the
I do
committee.
understand, and people maybe are going to make other suggestions, but I'm at the point, I will take the will of the committee. I feel like we could vote on this motion,
And make a new one.
and then if someone
Yes.
has something to say, we can continue forward.
That makes sense, it's getting really confusing.
Yes, let's vote.
Okay, so I just repeated it. Everybody knows what the motion is? Okay. Jen?
No.
Trent?
No.
Amy?
No.
David? Frankel?
Yes.
David Polito?
No.
Dana's a no.
Julia.
Oh, Julia?
No.
Okay, and so that was 1 in favor, 5 opposed. 6 opposed. Sorry, 6 opposed, and the motion fails.
I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that the school committee direct the superintendent to direct the director of facilities to assess all district schools and develop budgetary proposals for retrofitting these buildings to meet ASHRAE 241 by September 1, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Second by Jen Carr.
may I make a friendly amendment?
Please.
Assuming that this does not cost the school district anything, assuming it's free.
I accept.
Assuming you're talking about the
Talking about the estimate.
estimate.
Yeah.
As long as we
Yeah.
don't pay for them,
Yeah.
there's no harm in doing them.
Well, we don't have a budget for it, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
Right, we
there's
don't
no
have a
money in the
budget
to-
for it.
there's no
so-
budget.
Okay, so let me try to restate. The friendly amendment threw me on my restating. Hold on. The motion was to direct the superintendent to direct the director of facilities to develop budgetary proposals for retrofitting all 5 buildings to meet
I was
ASHRAE.
just going to say all district buildings so that we get around how many buildings we
Okay,
have.
all district buildings to meet or exceed ASHRAE 241 standards, and present those estimates by September 1st. Oh,
2025.
2025, with the caveat that
There's no cost of it.
there are no costs to creating those estimates. Is that correct? Okay. Discussion.
I think that if we move to the all schools, it's better because then, because I was going to say we left out the new school plan and that, but I think it's covered now.
Yeah, I like all schools, that's good. And, you know, if the building doesn't pass, this is definitely something we want to address, so I like it.
Okay, other discussion? I will say, while in theory, I am not opposed, of course, to, I guess I'm not really comfortable with having just, I guess I don't really like having a deadline. I don't, I might be more open, but I am reading the room, so I might be more open to something that was more like, you know, getting information from the district about, I guess I'm not comfortable with the deadline. I'm not comfortable, but that's okay.
I do think Trent made a really good point where if you don't put a deadline
No,
on
I
it,
get
it'll
it.
sort of fall off the face of the earth.
I get it.
And I do think it's the right time that if there, was something that was feasible, that we could then roll into next year's budget cycle.
No, I
Use the
feel
CIP
uncomfortable with
Yeah.
reading it and making a deadline all in one night. I feel like that, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'm reading the room, so that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, just use the CIP calendar. You're gonna,
Right, that
you're
makes
gonna,
sense.
you're gonna have your estimates by August so that they go to the CIP committee in September for prioritization, and then in September, they send them to the capital finance subcommittee for developing budget process. So if you use, you're right there. I mean, you want it September 1, but the meeting actually occurs in September, so. If you follow that process, we already have it established for that reason, and then really it's just saying, the committee saying to me to make sure that the director has these estimates, well, this estimate involved in the CIP calendar, which kicks off in
What,
April.
4 months, 5 months? So it doesn't feel like we're jamming it in anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll probably be done in the summertime because
Yeah.
they need access to buildings.
One of my questions is being presented to the school committee or to the advisory committee within the capital subcommittee?
But you
If
mean,
it goes to the school committee, are we circumventing the new procedure that we, the trying to implement with capital projects.
Oh, yeah, we don't, I mean, in other words, that's a good point. I don't actually know what, I mean, that's a good point in that, like, this was written by the Board of Health, and that's not up to them to decide which,
Well, I think if we're using that sort of September 1 date as a, sort of to try and make it into that subcommittee meeting, I think that's sort of where we want to aim it to go, right? To be able to have them to have the information, right? To
Yeah,
make the
right, by
recommendation,
September
to
1,
then
right.
make the recommendation, to then make the recommendation.
right, no, right, right. I don't know that, I actually not sure that in your motion that Trent really qualified whether it goes to, I guess to me, there's no reason it can't go directly to the FinCom. Is that your question?
So to go to Eric Tracy to be.
Yeah, to
be
be
distributed
distributed as
as
he
needed.
sees fit.
And I'll look at it.
Well, and I don't want to belabor just that because I can see that I can see it. I mean, I just want to, Eric, it sounds like you're feeling like this is doable?
I'll do whatever the committee wants me to do.
I
I mean,
understand.
it's,
It's a
I
very
think
very
it's as-
political answer, Superintendent
I
Tracy.
think it's as close to the process that we have. It might be off a couple of weeks because the committee might not meet until September 3rd, but I think either way, the process forces us to get whatever projects we put forward in April.
But I think
the
sort
numbers.
of tying this into that process is exactly what I feel in reading that and sort of hearing everything, that's what the Board of Health is asking us to do. And I think we're sort of making them happy in adding that to our agenda, our timeframe.
Anyone else? Okay, looks like we're ready to vote. David Polito,
Yes.
David Frankel,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Julia,
No.
Jane is a no. All right, and that is, I'm sorry, 1,
5 to
2,
2.
3, 4, 5 in favor and 2 opposed, and the motion passes. Okay. Next up, I don't think we have anything from you, Vinnie, is that correct? Correct. Okay. Capital finance.
Yeah.
So Capital Finance didn't meet this week due to various illnesses and kids not being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be. So we moved our Capital
got in the way.
Finance meeting to next Tuesday, the 25th, at what time, Vinnie?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Okay, that's what I've down.
Thank you.
Make sure.
Thank you for moving it.
So Tuesday, the 25th at 3.
Okay. Thank you. Policy, we have a couple of policies here.
Yes, we
Yeah,
met.
I don't know who wants to speak about these.
I don't know, Vinnie, do you want to explain?
Yep, I can speak. About a little over a year ago, new Mass General Law was updated to increase thresholds on our purchasing requirements. They updated the threshold for invitations for bids from 50,000 to 100,000. And anything under 50,000, anything under 100,000 would require the solicitation of 3 quotes. So this threshold is being updated to match the new Mass General Law.
Okay, thank you. And policy has reviewed these?
Yes.
Do you want to tell us anything about them? Or you feel like that's?
I feel like that kind of explains everything.
Policy has reviewed these.
Reviewed these.
Okay. And what are, who is the chair? Did you guys vote?
I am the chair of the policy
Okay,
subcommittee.
excellent. And what are you looking for us? Because it's a first reading. Do you want us to?
It's just a first reading.
Just a
There's
first reading, so
2 notes.
if you have,
Any notes by the committee?
Okay.
And then we'll put it in for a second reading next time.
Anybody have any thoughts? Nope. All right. Vinny, I will just say you answered. I had already inquired with the superintendent, but that was my question, was this is just an update of the law, and that's all we're doing here is meeting it
Correct,
up.
they updated it for, specifically for school districts and regional school districts to help with the administrative
Yep.
burden of procuring.
Procurement.
All right, thank you, policy. Do you have anything else?
We have an upcoming meeting on April 9th.
Oh, wait, no, I do have that.
All right, negotiations? Nothing to report.
Oh, nothing, I'm sorry.
I was helping you out there.
Yep. Nothing at negotiations. All's quiet. Then the secretary's report, I know we've been doing some sort of work behind the scenes, but I haven't even had a chance to
Okay.
look at it.
I will say, I did notice, I did go on and look at the list of outstanding minutes. I did see that.
It's all me. It's all Julia.
Oh, I have a couple too.
Was you, yeah, no, no. I'm saying I'm actually only just noticing that I did see that there were some members of the committee that had definitely logged on and checked things off, but not all members of the committee, so I hope people have taken their time to actually check in. And also, Julia and Jen, you both have the same initials, so JC is not helpful on the,
Your middle initial.
Put Jen Carr in mine.
somebody put JC in there. No.
That could have been even more religious.
That's right, it could be. Yeah, so I don't remember, but I just was like, well, so one of them has that.
I mean, you and David can just start putting D.
Just D.
But yeah, so there has been movement on that. I promise, before next meeting, I will go in and clean that up.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I do think, yeah, if maybe at the next meeting, we can go through the chart, because I know there will have been a little progress at least, so, thank you. All right, Eric?
A couple of quick things. I got the opportunity to experience the elementary jump rope assembly, which was fascinating. Still not sure how the gentleman that did the tricks did some of them, but it was fun for the kids to see and learn about jumping rope and learning about some of the things like teamwork when you're doing team rope jumping. And he had a really good message across each of the 3 elementary schools, so that was fun for the kids. MCAS is coming up over the next few weeks. We'll be dealing with MCAS ELA in high school and middle school first, starting next week, and then it'll shift into the elementary schools in the first week in April. So each of the schools has posted on the district calendar when their days are, so if people want to check that out. And then the field project is back up and running. We were shut down on one section of the field project from November 15th to March 15th. So they have restarted work, and they're so far right on schedule. They should be done at some point in July, and then we'll do a punch list with them and hopefully be able to open up and be ready in the fall for fall sports.
It's amazing.
Questions?
No.
Okay. I don't really have a chair's report, which, I could make something up, but I don't have anything. Does anyone have topics for future meetings?
Well, before that, since Trent missed the discussion of the brochure, I don't know whether he has the appetite or the energy to weigh in on the point that I was making, which was about the claims.
With all due respect, it's already been voted on.
Well, yeah, but it could be voted on again.
No.
No.
When's our next meeting, April 3rd?
When
Yep.
was what?
April 3rd.
Yes, our next meeting, is that what you're asking? Yeah. Next meeting is April 3rd.
I just wanted to hear
All right,
his
does
point
anyone
of
have
view.
topics for future meetings?
Nothing we can do about it on April 3rd anyway, because it's got to go, everything's got to be in by the end of the week, and it's going to print. Right, that has to be approved by the
Moderators.
moderators.
It goes to them Monday.
Okay.
Well, and I will just say to the entire committee, I always encourage you all, review the agenda ahead of time, and if you have questions or concerns, it's always a good idea to direct those ahead of the meeting to the superintendent. People certainly have opportunity to do
Oh,
that.
I
So-
think, I think I
Yes.
have had
It just sounded like
conversations
a
with them.
question that.
Yeah.
have- Sorry,
Go
I'm
ahead.
suddenly very tired. The, why can't I think of the? name of
Town
it?
meeting?
So,
I could
not
just
town
guess
meeting.
things that you could be talking about.
A regional agreement.
Yes.
That we-
Oh, yes, so we have, we did meet. We haven't really, while it was a,
It's suddenly
Good
got
dis-
it's suddenly got 9 o'clock in here.
while it's a good, while we had a good discussion, we were really, we got some clarity with the towns that what we really need from both towns is written documentation of what it is that they want in the regional agreement. And so they need to act, the next step is that both towns actually need to bring,
How is this being taken care of? I thought the lawyers are gonna sit and bang most
correct,
of the
but
stuff out.
before the lawyers, in other words, the school committee has submitted a redlined version of
Yeah.
what we want, and we sat with the two towns, and they sort of made verbal suggestions of what they wanted, and now they're clear that actually what they're gonna need, it is, in order for the two lawyers to sit down, they actually need to,
They meet
write
with
down
town
what they want.
managers or,
the town
boards?
managers, and they have the town manager and then a representative of the select board of each town. So yes, the idea is that once we have the language of all three entities, that the lawyers can hopefully sit down and hash out the language into legal language. They're not, we're not expecting them, like, they can put it in whatever kind of language. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, because in sort of just telling David that had to be in by a certain date, I was like, oh, it's because all the stuff is from the regional agreement.
Right, well, actually, well, yes, although that also has
That
to
is
be
the
in because the
moderator,
town,
right.
yeah.
Town, yeah.
But
Is there any hint that either town wants to pull out of the agreement or modify it with incorporating other towns or anything like that?
not that I have heard, no.
Nothing? Okay. Just curious.
So,
But that usually, stuff like that usually stems from our branch.
Mhm.
yeah, no, so there's, so, yeah, we will see. I think we do have another meeting scheduled. I don't know when it is. It's in,
I
April.
didn't need to, I just was wondering where we were on it.
April, yeah, in April.
Good question.
And
I believe you.
yeah, and the hope will be that at that meeting, all three entities will be able to say, these are the things we actually want, and then they can bring it to the lawyers. Okay, topics for future meetings? Other
That wa-
topics?
That was, hard.
The high school start times are scheduled at some point in time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's on our,
That is a good topic. When do we plan to revisit that topic?
the high school start times?
So we're gonna, if we go backwards, we're gonna put out a survey now in spring so that we can gather new information. We had done it 2 years ago, I think.
Mhm.
So we'll put a new survey out in the spring, see where people are at. Then we're probably gonna need a subcommittee to go through it all and figure out where people are at for some of the little obscurities. There's a lot of obscurities that have to be figured out, like busing and things like that.
I was gonna have to imagine if
Yeah.
if the new building passes, right, that not throws everything off, but because it's gonna change the
They changed
busing
the
schedules
busing.
Right,
completely.
right. Actually, it should help
Very
us to
easy.
reduce
And
buses.
nothing here is easy.
No,
No.
Well, isn't there also the whole synchronization of sports with the surrounding other schools?
Mhm.
Is it your plan to kind of feel that out, to see
Well,
whether
that's
it's...
part of all that, what the subcommittee would be doing.
I see, okay.
Yeah, we've already, actually, this North Shore Superintendent's Roundtable has talked about that a little bit. Some districts are interested in exploring it and others are not, so it's a matter of trying to get everybody on the same page.
My school starts at 7:15.
Yeah.
It's obscene. It's the middle of the night.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
Not for now.
Okay,
David, you're on.
I move that we adjourn.
all right. right. Do I have a second?
8:52.
All right, Julia,
Yes.
Jen,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
David.
Sorry.
And Dana's a yes.
Thank
We are
you.
52.
Bye,
Good night.
Julia.